very nice to have you here, Razzak. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Razzak. My real name is William. I am a 3D artist working for a video game studio, and I do 3D pixel art, basically.
Yeah, nice. So, and you have a very unique and very unique style, because I've never seen somebody else working in your kind of style. How did you come up with your style, or how did you work your way up to your style? What's your background?
The reason why I start making this style is I was in a video game school, and I make games, and I was learning a lot in 3D, and I began to make 3D models, 3D environment in a realistic style, because it's a major thing we learn in school. It's to make realistic graphics. And not such of other style, because it's the most common style we can find. When I do in game jam, I was always a 3D artist in game jams, and I find quite difficult to make realistic in a very short period of time.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I mean, making made an environment in 2 days is quite difficult, to be quite honest. It's a lot of corner cutting and a lot of effort. It takes a lot of you to make something that's not feel half made.
Yeah, true. So your style is also kind of a way to cut corners and to be faster in what you do as a 3D artist.
It's more like a way to give something more impactful and more details with something that doesn't need a lot of technical skills, like using the perfect materials, the perfect reflection, to have something that look good in very, very, very nice. And I begin to find other styles. So I make gradient art styles during my next game jam, and the result was pretty much mind-blowing, because I find the result very, very nice compared to my other work in game jam, and I was thinking that okay, I can make something that look way more impactful, way more colorful, interesting, with half the problem I got with with the realistic styles. And I find very engaging to have something that takes very much less time, and that look 20 more times better, because it don't feel empty, don't feel missing something, like this uncanny valley of realism we have when you make this type of graphics. Like, you see a room with a lot of objects, and still you see it's feel empty, it's miss something. It's quite uncanny, quite uneasy. That doesn't have this problem with this kind of more artistic choices.
I see. And I guess you also have way more creative freedom in stylizing, and less of a headache because you don't have to invest so much time. Usually, how long? What kind of game jams did you take part in?
Global game jams. That was the main thing I do, and I do call Utopia's game jams. That's game jams made in Nantes. It's a big city in France,
Mm-hmm.
That was very nice. I do some local game jam too, made from my school's internal game jam.
Oh, nice.
But since I move away from Nantan, I don't do game jam anymore, unfortunately.
You changed. I guess you changed a lot because you have been on different stages in your artistic career until the current day. Along this journey, while developing and changing in your style, where did you get your influences and your inspirations?
Basically, my pixel art inspiration. Well, it's basically four people. It's basically all people I found on the internet. The first one called Sully. It's a very famous one. I think it's the most famous of the four graphics for Mojang and Minecraft. So this is my first encounter of 3D pixel art because I was searching for something that looked very good and that's very impactful in terms of graphics.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very good 3D artist. The second one is called Not Dead. He make incredible texturing with lot of lighting effect on it and a very good knowledge of how to use pixel art. It's quite a very impressive work he do. That's basically how I learned to make lighting more vibrant on the model. How to make something.
I noticed these assets. It's from the game. It's a VR game, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Compound.
Compound. Yeah. Oh, what? He was the artist on the game.
Yes,
oh,
it was.
God.
It was him all along.
It's so funny because I think I found you on either on Twitter or on Instagram. But the first time I really saw stuff from you.
Yeah.
And I thought originally that you are the artist from Compound.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good sign because I got very inspired by how he make guns, how he's lighting on his weapons and all. And I was trying to mimic his style to understand more on how he makes something look more vibrant and more colorful.
Oh God, I see. Oh, yeah, your influences and your inspirations make totally sense now. I more and more understand how your style combined out of these styles developed. It's so interesting. So awesome.
My third inspiration is called Wacky Blocks. This man is a god among the humans.
Whoa.
He make a very, very good texturing and compositing and models that's very huge and mechanicals. And I was very inspiring by how he makes something look details, the shape, how he is creating his kind of art style. All his work are basically made on Blockbench.
Oh.
That's very kind of spatial modeling that's pretty much, shape by shape modelization.
Mm-hmm.
I was very inspiring by this kind of how he puts the light on this object, how he make it more intriguing, more. I've got more depth on his picture because the main problem I got from my 3D artist is with 3D pixel art is I don't know how to make something more impactful with the lighting. I mean real lighting, not lighting in painting. So I try to find a lot of inspiration from him because it took a very cool pixel art and put it with lighting, having shadows, having special effect on it. So I find this kind of thing very, very, very nice, and I want to, I use the same thing, having same details in terms of rendering.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in the list, it's you.
Oh God, no.
Yes, it is. Yeah. I don't know it's not really about artistic techniques in themselves. It's more like the rendering, the ideas, the shading process, finding some creative shading to create a render that's more appealing, more interesting, like the ASCII rendering, this sort of thing, like to find how to create a good monster, good environment that is spooky, that's good kind of thing that I liked a lot from you.
Oh, thank you. It's actually pretty funny because I think we are now in a talk about this current interview since a week or more than a week, and we are back and forth between us texting and stuff. And since then, I studied a lot of your work, your pixel art, and how you compose and how you set your scene and stuff. So you actually influenced me to change stuff about my style, and that I have to respect more texturing. So because texturing was always for me something like I like sculpting, I like modeling and stuff, and texturing was something like, yeah, as fast as I can, I need to do, UV unwrap that thing, that model, and texture it with some pictures and photos. And so, I started reapplying your influence.
Yeah.
And wait, let me show you what because I worked on a new version of my avatar.
Oh yes. By the way, your blue lich is something I really like it. The first time I saw the blue lich, I was like, oh, this thing is so cool. I was yes, I want to make a version of me because it's so cool. Oh, nice.
Thank you so much. So yeah, now my character has some fingers going on, and the texturing, like you can see here, there's a certain pattern noise in the pants, and it's different to the noise in the t-shirt and here to the shirt and stuff, and the noise on the skin. And it was something I never invested so much time into texturing like on this new version here. And all this, it looked so terrible and bland. And then I watched all your images, and then I noticed, oh, okay, different materials have different kind of noises and patterns and da-da-da. And because the t-shirt and the pants looked totally the same, and through you and your work, I figured out what to do. and I was so happy.
Yeah, but the result looked great. So.
Okay, also very important, because you just mentioned Blockbench.
Yes.
What kind of software do you use for your stuff?
It will be very short. Basically, I use Blender for my modeling and Aseprite for my texturing. That's all.
Oh, that's all.
Little bit special. I use a plugin called Primabase that allow communication between Aseprite and Blender. It's a live connection.
Oh, that's nice.
So when I draw something on Aseprite, I've got a live reaction on the models in Blender. So it's a very, very, again, a lot of time. A lot of time with this plugin. Very helpful. And it's free, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, it's free. It's free. You can give money to the creator I should give money for this creator.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's totally free. Aseprite, of course, is not free, but I recommend to buy Aseprite because it's not quite. It's pretty cheap, to be quite honest. It costs like 15 or 20. I don't remember.
I mean, that's nothing compared to Substance Painter and Adobe stuff.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Okay, so next up we have actually footage from you working on a model.
Oh, wow. Okay.
How exactly is your process? How do you start and what's the first thing? How do you get your references like we see here?
So basically, even before I do some modeling, like right now, I do a lot of research of how I do my project. It's simply I begin with an idea of something I want to do. I think about the colors I want to use, the ambient I want to give, what type of idea I want to make, etc. And I use Pinterest to search my ideas. And when I find cool pictures, something I can help me, external idea I can find, external reference I can find, I create a board on my per ref. I create a board of all my pictures inside of it, and after that, if the project is something I want to be more high quality end, I create very rough concept of the idea I want to make, to create iteration, to try if my ideas in my mind is a good idea when I put it on the paper with my quotation. I try the colors, I try different colors on the same pattern, I try different shapes, I try some ideas, I do a lot of iteration of the ideas. So when I do my concept, that's why when you can see on the picture, that's the final concept we got here. But it takes a little bit of time to have the idea to be clear. I prefer to have a concept that not ultra precise. I prefer something a little bit vague, but I know to guide me for the major point.
Okay, so you actually sketch out your idea before you start modeling. So like we see here, you made a pixel art sketch. I mean, it's a bit more than a sketch. It's it's already an artwork in itself.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
No, for me it's rough. For me it's rough. But,
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot of details. I mean, some part is okay, but it's the main goal is it's something that's rough. I put on the picture drawing. I put details. It's just for me to help me for the rest to know. Oh yeah, it's something that's got a dent. Something to understand more the shape in my modeling, like the torso, to understand. Oh yeah, it's something that a lot of volume to create the muscle. So the shirt, it's a detail I make to create something I understand for my future me when I'm modeling. But it's a lot of rough. It's very rough because I mean there are not a lot of detail after it, just for me to help me.
On this project, you started out with already a body mesh. So you do some prep work too. So you have a default base character, and you start not with the default cube. You already made yourself a base body.
This situation is a little bit kind of special because my previous work was 3 characters. Basically, I know this project was another character. For preparation, I know I create from my previous work this base mesh basically saved me a lot of time, because character making, starting from a cube, is take a lot of time, and having a good base mesh, it's very time saving for me. From how to make character from a cube, I start with the hips and create the legs and the torso. I create a cube from the head and create another cube for the arms. Right now, yeah, I use a pre-made preset that saved me a lot of time, because having a good body shape model save a lot of time from what we want to do in terms of quality. It's just for me a time saving quality to have something like this.
Yeah, it's totally understandable. I think especially people that just started out or trying to get into 3D modeling don't understand how important it is to reuse things you already created, and doing prep work like that. Because in the end, you want to get as fast as possible to the creative part, or the part you're good at, or the part that makes your stuff important and unique. Here, for example, with the shoes, the pants, and the shirt, they contribute a lot to the silhouette of the character. So it's not just a body, it's more than that. You can see without the texture already that the character has some kind of outfit going on. When is the extra mesh, and when is it part of the texture for you? When do you decide for one of each?
The major thing, I think, when I need to separate clothing from the body to have modeling on it, it's something I know it will move outside the body, like strings, the shirt, because it will move depending on your body. It's just following your legs, but it's something that's independent of your body. Same thing for the shirt. Same thing for the other example, other model I made before. It's something I know it's moving away from you. That's not part. It's a part of your. So it's something you wore, but not a part of your body. That's decide why I model the clothing. The main purpose of this is to create depth on your character. Is create something that have a different depth when you look at a model.
Oh god, it's super interesting, because from my side I get a lot of questions from for hair and outfits, and I never really felt comfortable talking about it, because I'm not really sure myself when to use outfits and stuff like that. But how you just explained it, that makes so much sense. I mean, for my side, I'm more deciding on an extra piece of geometry when the part of the clothing is adding to the silhouette. So I'm more focused on the silhouette itself, because I'm also, I think, working as low poly as possible. Because a lot of people are complaining that I'm too high poly sometimes.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I try to work just based on the silhouette. For example, a hoodie is changing the silhouette, but a t-shirt is not changing the silhouette. So a t-shirt, I would never create a mesh for a t-shirt, but for a hoodie, for example, I would change the mesh. And for you, with the movement and stuff, that's extremely beneficial for animating, for example, because you have these individual meshes, so you can animate parts of the shoes on the flip-flops, for example, or the shirt and stuff like that, which creates also more depth in the movement, in the animation, and also on the model itself. So, for the UV unwrapping, so I guess for having pixel perfect textures, UV unwrapping is a very important part from modeling to texturing. Especially, I mean, if you put so much work into pixel perfect, pixel art textures, and how do you line up your pixels? What do you look out for while UV unwrapping before you continue and jump into texturing?
When I began to create UV, I try to create a basic UV unwrap. So I put my seam like I want to create some kind of clothing, where I think it will be a good idea to put seams where I need to separate it. That's why, for example, I separated the lower jaw with the rest of the head, because I know this face will not see the light and it will be just one color. So I don't put any effort to create something a good UV kind of thing. So I try to eliminate some faces like this in my first UV unwrap to, of course, gain some times. And after that, I unwrap it and try to align the UV to the pixel grid. Blender have a function that allows your UV to snap to pixels. So I use this function to have a pixel perfect UVs.
I guess a lot of people that would approach texturing the head will face some kind of distortion. Yeah, distortion on the top of the head especially. How do you avoid getting very distorted pixels?
For the top of the head, where the horns are located, I try to be more flat in this horizontal place.
Mm-hmm.
And where it comes to the top of the skulls, I try to have something round, but that's allow my pixel to be aligned. So I don't try to make it plain on this kind of UV unwrap. So there is distortion. It's unavoidable. I try so hard to have something flat, but not very possible. It's just to put distortion and where it's not okay. And I find this thing to be more okay when it's just, the front lobe of the skulls to be more flatter.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, let the upper skulls alone and just try to snap it to the pixel grid.
Nice. How do you start painting? So you line out the silhouette, or how do you start texturing?
Basically, the first phase of my texturing begins UV alignment, I would say. So I just move a little bit of my UVs, testing if the distortion is okay. If there are not a lot of problems, the distortion is okay, and am I good in my UV unwrap? Because sometimes I make some errors, so I check if everything is okay. When everything is okay, I make an outline of the UVs that I've finished. Why I do especially outline? It's for me, it's a kind of a reminder to not overdraw, because I've got the bad habit to overdraw everything I saw.
Yeah.
So when I create a shape, just a bit, I finish to create just I painting all of my UVs. I try to begin to drawing, and sometimes I've gotten trapped because I moved my UVs and painting for nothing, basically.
Oh god.
So that's why I prefer to have a little bit of mind work before. Painting a very precise outline of my UVs. So after that, I don't have to think about, I need to not touch this. I need to don't overdraw this. I need to be careful of this. No, I just go full steam ahead. No problem, and no thought after that.
And for the coloring, for example, here, and how do you find your colors?
The choice of the color are made before in a pre-production phase, I would say. It's when I want I have my ideas of what I want to do. It's that I choose my colors. It's at the moment I choose my colors. So I find colors something that it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult. Even at this stage, I still have problems to use correctly the colors because it's something very complex and take a lot of time to understand how to make something more vibrant, more appealing to the eyes. That's why I prefer some kind of limited one. And of course, it's also a reference of, retro don't have all the color in the world we have now. We have in older generation we have limited color palettes. It is some kind of reference of this. It's to use limited colors to inspire the retro styles. That's why I do this.
Where do you find your palettes, your color palettes? Is there some kind of resource, or how do you find those?
I find basically all my color palettes on a site called Razzak. It's a very, very cool site that give a lot of palettes, especially for retro and pixel art. So it's just a gold mine for me. Basically, it's just a gold mine, and you have a lot of choices, and it's very active because people create new palettes every day, and you can try it, you can use it, and it's something that I liked a lot. It's made for retro styles, and it's matched perfectly of what I want to do in my work.
Wow. Okay, Razzak is an amazing resource for retro pixel art, color palettes, for digital artists in general.
Yes.
Amazing. And I guess a colors palette can also bring a lot of inspiration to a piece or idea.
Is create constraint to your work, because you don't have I don't have the perfect gray, I don't have the perfect blue, but you need to deal with it and create a skill to know how to use other color than your mind will want to do. It's a kind of an exercise to create something more impactful, more meaningful of your creating styles.
Interesting. A lot of back and forth is also involved. So how long do you usually take texturing something? What's your average duration working on the texture?
In terms of object by object, it's depend of the complexity of what I texture it. For example, in general, the head is something it takes more times because it's the most important thing of the character. It's a head because it's something that's create connection. It's something that the people, when you look at, will see his expression and see, okay, this man is it's a nice guy, or this man is it's not a very good guy, and maybe a devilish man. That it's the first thing that set up the mood of your character. It's the first line of contact. People want to seek faces. It's the first thing we want to see. It's the face of the people. That's the first thing our brain recognize somebody else. It's the faces. So I take a lot of time on the faces, but to give you a kind of exception, something that takes a lot of time is patterns with different shape involved. The Hawaii shirt is a perfect example because it's a nightmare.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about it.
It was just a nightmare for me because it's basically something with a very complex drawing on it, with different complex drawing combined together to create a pattern on it. This is the worst complicated thing to do in terms of pixel art, in terms of texture for me.
Oh, God.
Because
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
The Hawaii shirt is a painting in itself. When you showed me the texture work on the Hawaii shirt, because on your sketch it was just little stars, like very not very refined shapes. And I thought like, oh, okay. And when you showed me the final outcome of the texture of the pattern, and you made the whole pattern. I mean, it's like painting, like painting a wallpaper or something. It's a painting in itself. It's an artwork in itself. Oh God.
Yeah, this is the most complicated thing. Is basically you paint a painting inside a painting.
Oh God.
This is the most complicated thing to do in terms of texture.
Respect. You're truly a master in texturing and painting. It's so impressive. When was the time you decided creating pixel art? Because you also create whole pixel art paintings. Was it before or after the 3D?
Basically, I begin to make 3D pixel art my beginning in pixel art is basically in pair with 3D modeling, because when I start pixel art, it was because of an event called the 256 challenge. When you have to do 256 model with 256 triangle and texture, maximum texture and triangle. Mm-hmm. And I tried this challenge because I saw a video showcasing this kind of thing on a video called Beyond PR Show that showcase non-realistic art style, and I was very mind-blown by the result of people make it with so much resources and make it a lot of things. That's why I basically began pixel art at the same time, and I'm stick to it right now. Quite honest, I don't really do a lot of 2D pixel art. I do, but I prefer to make it in 3D, my pixel art, to be quite honest.
It's super interesting that you are good in 3D and with 2D, because for my side, I am terrible in 2D painting. I can only think in 3D, and seeing you rocking both sides is super impressive.
I learned how to do this before I do ever 3D. When I was young, I was drawing a lot, and before even I learned to do 3D, I drew a lot of traditional drawing. Did
you study drawing and painting, or was it just private?
I began my journey by myself. Learning by myself how to paint, how to draw. But when I go to my school, I gained some knowledge of basically rules of how to make good drawing, how to make the good practices, and the rules of, made by a real artist, traditional artist, to make proportion, to make good shading, for the cloth rendering. All this kind of thing came from my knowledge of traditional drawing. Yeah.
So it reinforced what was already there, and you built upon it and learned. I think it's super interesting that a traditional painting in oil, in I don't know, in some museum can lead up to pixel art and retro 3D stuff. I really have to thank you for the outcome of this of your interpretation of my character, because there's so much in it I would never come up with, and I'm super impressed. I mean, I already knew that you're an amazing artist, but oh God, it's just beautiful. And also the darkening of the eyes, like you said, with the amplifying of the darkness between the teeth, the nose, and the eyes, and you really nailed the evilness. Because for some reason my character always looks kind of, nice.
Gentle, nice, just a happy lich.
Yeah, exactly.
A happy gentle lich that doesn't mind you.
There's so much more to it, to like you said, with the head and stuff, to bring character to it, with the texture and intent, with the shadows and the highlights. In your career so far, so you mentioned you're working in the industry right now as an 3D artist.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And what's your position? Are you a 3D journalist, or do you have a specific position?
3D technical artist.
Before that, have you been in the industry, or is this your first job?
Yeah, it's my first job.
Oh, nice. And how long?
It's been, I think it will, from now, it's 1 year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, more than 1 year and a half in the industries.
And did you learn something new on your job?
I learned a lot of communication, working with a team, organization, planning, a lot of things. This thing because mostly working solo before, so making a character interesting because I work with a lot of concept artists, and I learn a lot of them because it gave him a concept art of characters, and I was asked to create a character with the concept art, and I found a concept that was given very, very good, very nice, and with a lot of character. And it gave me a lot of interesting thought about how he puts interesting thing on it, on his character, the reference he's used. A lot of work was put in his mind to create something interesting. So I got a lot of inspiration from this concept artist I work with.
What was the most challenging thing in your career?
So for this kind of for this character, I put a lot of constraint about it. So the first constraint was the era. So it's antiquities era, more like to near to the 1st century, or between the 1 or 2 century before and 1 century after, in terms of era of historical value, I want to put it, and a lot of influence of Dacian, Thracian, a lot of work with Scythian culture.
Mm-hmm.
So that make a lot of inspiration with a little bit of Slavic inspiration in terms of the clothing, and of course the hood was very, very inspired by Scythian culture, and I want to create something for the mask that was very special, and I find it from the Yemen culture, that have a culture with the mask for the women, that it was very, very beautiful. They got a lot of ornate masks for women that I find very, very beautiful. So I was very inspired by this kind of culture. And I want to create a character that looks strong and enigmatic, and a stranger from another country, basically. So so this kind of constraint, I choose to have some historical properties, but in a fantasy world, because I want to create a character that don't have spike horns, this kind of thing, because I don't like this. I prefer to have practical, but doesn't exist kind of thing that completely made up thing. That's my preference. I prefer to have something that doesn't exist, but it's probable if people live in this era use this kind of clothing and weaponry.
It's really translating very well, because she looks like she's very quiet, she's very fast, and also the clothing looks very, you can't really make out how big or how small she actually is, because her silhouette is kind of drowning underneath her outfit, and also you really get a very mysterious assassin vibe from it. So it's super interesting, because I think you put way more. I don't know. I wish Ubisoft would give you a job and get some input from you, because they sometimes feel like they flatline with their ideas, in my opinion, and with their designs. They look very, I don't know. They're just
fantasy over fantasy.
Exactly. So, is she actually from a project or a game?
Not from me, but from a friend. She wrote actually in this time of day a book about this character.
Oh.
So I make she doesn't have graphical fidelity or graphical thing about his character, but she gave me description of this character, and I was very inspired, because my problem, I tend to not create a character from fantasy, and it was my real problem. I've got a lot of problem with fantasy, and I find this book and this universe very interesting. And it's kind of a challenge to give a fantasy my outlook, and stay on the constraint of how the character want to be expressive, of how the character want to be, with just the description and the lines she gave to me and create this character.
Is her book already out?
No, she's still working on it.
Oh, nice. You have to give us the details to the book, because I mean it's a big part in your creative career.
The more from what I can tell, because she's given me a little bit, not a lot of information, but basically the character was an elf. She is very tall, very strong, but it's a stranger from another world, and she lives in a world that is very hot, but she came to another world that they don't have lights, and the world is very cold. So
wow.
this is why she's got a very heavy clothing, because she doesn't live in a place that is cold, so he needs some protection for the cold.
Oh god, it's so interesting to have some insight in your way of thinking, and seeing the result afterwards. It's so awesome. And yeah, are you currently on a project, or is there an upcoming project you are working on?
I'm working on a pre-production of a game that's called Project Hanger.
Is it a code name, or?
Yeah, it's a code name. I've got a real name for the game, but I prefer for now to just call
okay.
to call Project Hunger to be a little bit mysterious about this.
Okay, I can't wait. Super interesting. And on that project, you made the characters?
I make a character of it, but this is just a drawing I make on paper. But it will be in the game for sure.
Oh, nice.
And it will be quite surprising to saw him because it's a very special to saw this character. But basically, I send you picture of it and pre-production picture of this.
Am I allowed to show it?
Yeah. I made it specially for the interview. So yes, this is a current loadout with the blocking I made for the game. The idea of the game is basically a walking simulator where you have to repair a vehicle to get away from the hunger because of an apocalypse that will incur in very soon. And you need to evacuate the hangar because it will not be safe to stay here. And you have a point how to get out, and the only way out is to repair this vehicle. And
Whoa.
the main theme is to repair this vehicle and find what happened inside the hangar of the people that work inside this hangar, and what happened to you because you were abandoned by your crew, and you arrive in this hangar and understand why they leave you alone in the open because you are inside of a toxic planet that will destroy itself in short time. And you need to understand why the people abandon you and leave you alone in this hangar, and understand why there are still vehicles inside and nobody around, and basically understand the story by look at it, searching inside the hangar. And they have a story about a relationship with the character you have and another character. They have a relationship, and during the duration of the game, the player will learn a lot of the relationship between the character and the player. And after that is quite a little bit I don't know how to it's still a pre-production, so I don't have
the premise of the game sounds so interesting. And never, because especially I think a lot of people, if games or indie games in a single environment like this project are usually a bit more empty, but the layout with the different levels and niveau 1, 2, 3, and you can go all the way up and stuff like that. It's so well thought out level design, and also the look. There's always something to look at and stuff like that. I never heard a concept like that. Walking sim meets survival thriller horror elements, I guess.
No, there are no horror, to be quite honest.
More mystery.
Mystery, yeah, more
okay.
Mystery. Is there no horror element on it, but just mystery and a more apocalyptic vibe, more abandoned, sterile kind of depression. If you say so. Yeah, depression. Yes, very sterile, very hostile situation, but not in danger. It's put it on mind of a man that the wind will change. He's not happy with the wind of change, and he live in a situation he need to change something to resolve, to progress, and to leave this place.
Nowadays, most projects like here are a bit scared of only using the environment, and I guess a lot of games, especially in the indie sphere and indie production, indie development, hide themselves behind some cheap jump scares and monsters. And just relying on the environmental storytelling, like you just explained, is so refreshing, and it's super. The concept itself is so genius. I also it will be in your style, right?
Yeah, it will be in pixel art for sure, but it will not be so happier for what I do, because
more depressing.
Basically, all my works have very bright colors, very happy moods, and in general, sometimes it's more serious for sure, but it stay in the good mood, happy mood. They are not oppressing, not sterile, oppressing style, and I want to create something that's the world is about to end, and you feel it.
Yeah.
The world is not in a very good shape. It doesn't feel well, and you're not feeling well, and there still need to be something more, I don't want to say darker, but because it's not really about darkness, but it's not. It's more like very mood, very serious mood, more just depressing mood. If I
see.
try to put a word on it, it's a little bit difficult to me. It's like my zombie head,
Yeah. I see. It's a very. It sounds like a very thoughtful a project, and that will try to make the player feel certain feels.
Yeah, it's not, the aim is not to be edgy at all. It's not the aim at all. It's not to be dark, edgy, a satanic thing that people want to make demonic thingy. It's not this kind of thing I want to do. I want to be more kind, on Earth.
It sounds very cinematic to me. So just the premise, the look so far. It has a very movie-like feeling to it. I really can't wait for seeing some textures on the block out and the first assets and character designs. So I really can't wait to hear more from this project. Do you have any inspirational advice for young upcoming artists? 3D artists or 2D pixel artists? Do you want to share some advice?
The first advice is to not be scared by the other work that people do. When you are a beginner and you don't know how to do a thing, you see something and you say, "Oh my God, that's so beautiful," but I will never do that. I'm so bad at 3D modeling, or I'm texturing, etc., etc. When your first creation doesn't have to be the same quality of a man with 5 years experience. It's okay to make a bad thing, quotation bad thing. It's okay. It's something we'll all get. My first work was not very good, to be quite honest, from what I do now. And you need to get in mind that a lot of progress are made because you create something is difficult and you learn from this difficulty. Always try to create a project that, first of all, you want to do it. That's the first thing here. Don't force you to make something if you're not in a mindset to do it, because you just make you feel sad and bad. You would not very be happy of the result because you don't put good motivation on it.
Yeah.
And last thing, it's important to have references. If you don't know how to do something and you struggle on something, stop what you're doing, take a break, find picture of this problem that could help you. Put in your board and look at it, understand it, why this is working and why it's not working, and you see a lot of progress.
Well said, well said. There's a lot of mind power behind it before you even start. So prep work makes the dream work.
If I give a very talking example, is for the Blue Lich project. It was the Hawaii shirt. So it was so much difficult to make a good pattern, to make something like that's look good. I take a lot of picture of Hawaii shirts to understand how to make an Hawaii shirt.
Oh God, you had to learn how to make an Hawaii shirt just for this one project.
Yes.
Oh
I know how to make Hawaii shirt, but I know before I doesn't know how to do it, but now I know how to do it.
Another thing in your resume for the next job. No, I really have to thank you a lot for taking the time, and I mean really for taking the time and investing your skills and sharing your thoughts. It has a lot of teachable values we have to preserve for the, for younger generations and people that will try to become one day like you. Yeah, where exactly can people find more from you and your art?
You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. For now, I prefer to post animated and video on Twitter because I find Instagram video awful.
Yeah, understandable.
So I prefer to use Twitter for videos, but Instagram will be more for static thing. You can find my best working in ArtStation. That's more my professional thing. You will saw more like tools and technical stuff in my ArtStation. And my future games will be on this itch.io, of course. So you can contact me basically on every social media. And Discord, I prefer to Discord. From the people of StarCraft community, I think you know where I am.
Yeah, on the Discord channel, the link will be below the video. You can, of course, join the Discord if you're not already in it, and you will find Razzak and his work on the Discord channel, on Twitter, on Instagram, and his future games on his itch.io. Yeah, I really have to thank you again, and I hope our paths cross again in the future. And you're an amazing inspirational artist. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much too.